Alright, the video started. Hello guys, this is Federico. Welcome to the Keen Workspaces. I am here today to make a video to illustrate you and explain to you as briefly and as I can, as simply as I can, the process and what it takes to do business with DARPA, to work with DARPA. Now let's take a step back. Why would you work or do business with DARPA? Pretty simple. DARPA is the government agency that of the Department of Defense that does research and development, and it's the agency that was the creator of the internet, of GPS. They made stealth fighter jets, so it's a pretty big deal. They're pretty, pardon the term, they're pretty badass agency, and so I think every ambitious engineer would not say no to working on such a project. If you're working on a project and DARPA is funding it, or you're working with DARPA, that means you're doing pretty cool stuff, literally on the edge of innovation, and they're literally the most innovative projects. So I thought that only researchers and university and PhDs were able to kind of get their projects or work with DARPA, but I also found out that DARPA has a small business innovation opportunities, so small business opportunities. And so I contacted them through my company, and I just asked a bit more information, and so I got back a series of resources and I went through them, and that's why I want to make you this video in case of anybody else, if anyone else wants to submit their proposal or try to work with DARPA on something. If you have the expertise on a certain area, then this is what you should do, and I'm kind of compiling all the informations together in a single video. So let's start. I'm going to use the board so I can kind of explain a little bit better, and yeah, let's go to the conference room. How to do business with DARPA. Let's do it. All right, guys. So today we're talking about working with DARPA, which, if I can translate in more colloquial terms, informal terms, will be working with the most badass and latest technologies ever in support of the defense industry. So pretty cool. Which means contributing with your big IQ science brain and getting back funding to work on the idea. This is what I mean by working with DARPA, and that's what this video is about. So the first things is a bit of technicalities. DARPA has three types of I would say proposal types or contest types. Ones are seedlings, seedlings, which basically are open to all capable sources. They deal with office-wide, broad agency announcements. Also, guys, I forgot an acronym, very important acronym. The acronym BAA, right, means broad agency announcement, right? So they're announcements made by DARPA, and this is what you respond to with your proposal. So you always respond with your proposal to a BAA, so just keep this in mind. So the seedlings are open to all capable sources. They're usually deal with office-wide BAA, so generic announcements, contests. They're usually 6 to 9 month projects. Okay, and they usually bring an idea from disbelief to doubt. So it's kind of, I would say, the first stage of getting a project to doubt, so to actually make it considerable. Then you have programs. So after seedlings, you have programs. Okay, programs are open to all capable sources again, and this one deal with specific programs, BAAs. BAA, and these are office specific. Okay, we're gonna see it here. Specific programs. BAAs, so announcements. They're usually multi-deal and multi-year, multidisciplinary projects, and they go to make something from a possibility to a capability, right? And again, they're usually long and multi-year, multidisciplinary. Then you have the, which we'll focus on more, SBIR, STTR. This small business innovation research, and this is SBIR, so small business technology transfer research. So I'll go through that in a second of what they all mean. So both of these, they're all open to small business. What they define, what DARPA define as small business, I believe, is anything with 500 or less employees. So pretty much pretty broad category of small businesses. You submit your proposal to a DOD, what was it, what did I write? To a DOD. Looks like an acronym here, a game of up, but it means you're going to submit your proposal to DOD, Small Business Innovation, or Small Business Technology Transfer broad announcements. So these announcements, these BBAs, you submit it through them, through the DOD, through a DOD specific website. And they go from two phases. The feasibility, they actually have a phase 1 of feasibility. Where they allocate $225,000, and then they have a phase 2 where the funding can go up to, which is the prototype phase, which can go up to $1 million USD in funding. And remember, guys, more than the funding itself is the fact that you're working with DARPA, you have experts, and you're really making a big contribution to to defense. And obviously, the project that you're gonna do here is gonna have is gonna be worth a lot. So, and DARPA will help you fund everything. Now, the difference between the small business innovation research is that the small business needs to be, let me see how to frame this. It must be a US business owned 51% by a US national or permanent resident at least. And this is all it's for small businesses. The technology transfer programs, it's a bit different. It's always deals with small businesses, but it requires them to partner with a US-based non-profit research institute. Okay? Where the business will do 40% of the work, of research work done by the business, and 30% of work done by the small business, and 30% of work done by the non-profit research lab. Okay? 30% by non-profit. So that's basically the difference between SBIR and STTR, business innovation research and technology transfer. Okay, now that we know this, and now we know that we submit proposals to this, how do we actually find those BBAs that we can submit to, right? So DARPA has offices. We have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 offices, which one is the BTO, which is the Biological Technology Office. One is the DSO, Defense Science Technology, Defense Science Office. Then you have the I2O, which is the Information Innovation Office. Then you have the MTO, which is the micro technologies, microscopic technology, and micro like embedded systems, things like that. Then you have the Strategy Technology Office, and then you have the TTO, the Tactical Technology Office. What you do is that you go to the DARPA website, you look at what all these different offices do, and then you go inside the website of each office and you look at what they offer. Now, I'm going to show you what I did to find an opportunity for myself to use my expertise. And obviously, because my field of expertise is software engineering, I picked I2O, and I want to show you how I went about finding a good opportunity regarding a possible project, something that can bring innovation in this field, and who I contacted and what I did. So let's go on the computer. I'm gonna share screen and show you my thought process, what I did. Let's go. All right, forgot one thing to mention is when you're sending a proposal, what is DARPA expecting from you? Very, very generically. First of all, you are expected to give, they're gonna evaluate the technical quality and the approach, right? So first of all, submit multiple approaches if you can. Submission tips, I guess. Proposal submission tips. Right? So submit multiple approaches and with good technical quality. So go a bit in the details and explain how you're gonna achieve something. Use the Heilmer Catechism, which is a series of questions that you ask related to your research project and proposal to determine its potential. I'm gonna do a separate video on this because it's very, very, very important and it's pretty cool. Use submit white papers, right? Or abstracts. So that format of technical, that technical form of a white paper is highly encouraged if possible. And that's it pretty much for these are very generic, they might be common sense, but they're highlighted in the DARPA website as how to approach, how to submit. So now let's go to the computer, let's see a little example of how I found the a good opportunity for my company, for example. Let's go. All right, guys, we are at the computer now. Let's actually go through the steps and let's see how to see opportunities and how to navigate through the DARPA website. So obviously we're gonna go to darpa.mil, and so we said that there's different offices and offices have programs. So we're gonna go to the About Us and Offices, and this gives a brief description to all the offices. So we have the biological, defense, we went over that on the board. The ones where I'm very strong and I have most expertise is information innovation. And again, this gives a more detailed breakdown of what the information innovation, what this kind of office is doing, the various sections. And then here, the various programs. So I went through them a little bit, and one that caught my eyes was this one, configuration security. Configuration security, meaning, different computer systems and softwares behave differently depending on what configuration you give them, right? Usually configurations are a file with some key value pairs that define the variables that the system will use, usually. And so this explains a little bit what this particular program is, the configuration security. Gives you what areas in the following research are supported. And you actually have to go then to the BAA. Also, apologies guys, I wrote BBA before, but it's BAA, Broad Agency Announcement, big mistake. Apologies for that. So we go here and we see the configuration security. Now, I just found out that it's inactive. I did submit something that's inactive, unfortunately. But let's see, configuration security, and here are the official documents. So I went to the PDF one, which downloads, there you go, downloads the description, and it gives you a more detailed, way more detailed description of what this program is about. So it gives you an introduction, it explains you how configurations are important in software systems. And then I like this one. They break down this project into further technical areas. Technical area 1, technical area 2, 3, and 4, right? So I went through the technical areas and I saw that, okay, composing the configuration, understanding the system is the technical area 1, generating the configuration is the technical area 2, technical area 3 is to check, to test, right, the TA1 and TA2, and then TA4 will basically deal with the evaluation and integration. And in particular, I like this bullet point, successful TA4 proposal will at minimum address the following challenges. Development of and where is it? Here. And so this is how you go through and you basically realize where and when, what idea, what projects you can submit. So the next thing to do is to, and I think this is what I did even before putting together a formal proposal, because putting together a whole proposal is, it will take time, right? And so you go through these, there's a list of people, We go to the leadership, program managers and staff, and it will tell you who at the information office you can contact, right? And so I did reach out to the program manager, and I did this through the form here, contact. And I basically outlined my solution and what particular problem I was addressing about. And I gave a brief description right here, and I submitted it. And theoretically, if the idea is good, the person will contact you back, will give you some feedback. But if you are 100% convinced and you really want to go with your project, you should go and reply directly to the announcement. Okay, so that's it basically. This is how you go through each proposal, understand the technical what can I say, the technical requirements, and you prepare your proposal after this. Now, for a little bonus, let's go up to the board and let's see what kind of problem I saw and what kind of solution I proposed. Unfortunately, I just realized now that it's a inactive contest, so thank God I didn't spend any time putting together a proposal. I just wrote to the program manager. But let's go back to the board. Let's see what I had in mind. All right, guys. So let's give a little example. What kind of proposal did my business submit to DARPA? So we didn't really submit a proposal. We just sent an inquiry to the subject matter expert of that particular office. But the whole topic was about Consec, so configuration security, right? So let's take an example, a web server, right? A web server is a software, a complex software that deals with taking packets from the internet and routing them and providing content, right? It serves files to the internet. A web server is a software that can have multiple complex ways to do things, right? So how do we tell to the software, to the web server software that runs on my server, how to do things my way, rather than when my friend runs it on his server and wants to do things different? So if we're running the same kind of web server, let's say Apache, but we want to have different behaviors, what we'll do is we provide to the software different configuration. So we have a software, we give it a configuration, and it behaves according to the configuration, right? Now, what the DARPA Consec program was about was to design a system that, first of all, understands the context that it finds. So an algorithm, a system that understands the kind of software we have to configure. So it gives an example of a naval of a set of softwares in the naval industry, in the naval niche. I'm being a bit generic, but the gist is that in the Consec program, the goal is to devise a process that will first of all understand the context that the configuration need to be applied. Then second step, that generates the configuration, the config file, and applies it. Then number 3, step 1 and 2. So for how can I say, and integrate. And then, as lastly, to perform checks and well, I can say performs integrity checks. Now this is the part where I have a really good idea, which is basically to, okay, so let's say we have this software right here, and we'll feed the software a particular config file, which has, you know, all my behavior, and then the software will work. Now, what happens? The proposal I made was more on the step 4, right? I want to basically, I would love to work on a system that does these integrity checks. So what do we mean by integrity check? So we have to make sure that no attacker and nobody can change this configuration, right? And alter it, because if we change the configuration, right? If we somehow are able to input a, let me see if I can make a skull, right? If we're able to make a malicious configurations, then we're gonna take over the software, and this is bad. So how do we prevent this to happen? By checking the integrity of the initial configuration. So what happens is that the first time that we provide a valid configuration, when we at this step, right, around these steps, what we're gonna do is the system proposes a system that will take the optimal configuration file, right? Let me see if I can. Why did I do it here? I have no space. But a system that will take the configuration file locally, produce a hash, so a digital signature of this configuration, and then commit and save this hash into a decentralized distributed ledger. Okay? What is the most successful and widespread decentralized distributed ledger? The Bitcoin blockchain. Or the Ethereum blockchain. Now this has nothing to do with Bitcoin itself. We're only using the ledger, the public ledger, to store our hash data of the configuration. So once we commit this hash to a decentralized distributed ledger, then we're gonna have it's gonna give us a timestamp. All right. Well, it's gonna give us a transaction, right? We commit things to a blockchain by writing a transaction, which then gives us what? A timestamp. Oops. A timestamped hash, okay? What does it mean? Why do we do all this? Why is this important? Because now the distributed ledger, which is a all over the world distributed network, right, that runs on top of the internet by having a lot of computers running, sharing the ledger, and with a lot of cryptographic checks. Now we're gonna have a way to check in the future. So let's say we're in the future now, and we have this config file that we're about to feed again into the software system. Before we feed it into the software system, we're gonna do a check. So we're gonna go back and check into the decentralized, into the blockchain. Check for hash, right? And if we found it, then we see when was this hash first saved? And let's say it was 10th November 2018, and now what do, okay, we don't find the hash, or we find the hash. If we don't find the hash, this config file never existed, right? The config file never existed, and let me see if the video is running. Yep. The config file never existed, right? And so we don't have a proof that this config file ever was committed, was never saved. And so this should be checked, right? It should be rejected. But if we find a timestamp saved on the blockchain of, let's say, 10 November 2018, then we clearly have mathematical and cryptographical proof that this config file existed at this point in time, and it had the same information in it. Why? Because of cryptography, because the cryptographic signature, the hash of this file, represents the file. And so this is when we can have an okay, and if everything is okay, then we can feed this config file to the software, because we know for sure that it's the same config file that we used at that point in time, etc., and it is the same kind of data. The data was maintaining its integrity from the timestamp date from when we first saved it. Like this, let's say this happened in 10 November 2018, this is what happened, right? This happened. And so then later, in a later moment, in November 30, 2020, you can perform a check and have a mathematical cryptographic assurance that this file was maintaining its integrity. And so this is the system that I think would be very strong to perform integrity checks on this Consec program. Now, why the blockchain? Why using a blockchain to do this? Because from a blockchain, once you commit something and you write it with a transaction, you're not able to delete it. Nobody, and listen to me, nobody can go on a blockchain ledger and delete things from the past. Why? Because you have to have so much computational power that you have to beat all the computers that provided power for that blockchain. And we know that especially the Bitcoin and the Ethereum blockchain have an astonishing amount of nodes of computers that run work to secure them and to write data on them. So there's no way a single person or entity can beat a whole distributed computer system, and that's why nobody can delete anything off a blockchain, especially past data. And this is why this blockchain is the strongest way to store a hash, a digital signature of these configuration files, and provide mathematical assurance that they haven't been changed, they're same, they're good, and then they can be fed into the software again. And this system will be a piece of software that literally runs at the moment of feeding especially at the beginning when the first config file is created, and then it will check. It will literally be a software that injects itself in the middle between feeding the config to the software. It will do this. So this is the kind of proposal I did. Obviously with my team, when we'll have R&D time, we'll go through more proposals. Unfortunately, I just found out 5 minutes ago because I looked at the little dot on the website that this is an inactive program, unfortunately, but there's many more. And so that's it. So guys, I encourage you, if you're engineers too, if you're ambitious, if you want to try to get some R&D projects going, go to DARPA's website, see what programs are available. I think it's pretty cool. And let me know in the comments if you have questions, or what your experiences are, anything that we can talk about. So leave a comment. So thank you very much. Let's see if I forgot something. Guys, by the way, last thing. Before I wrote BBA as the announcement for proposal, but it's wrong. It's BAA, Broad Agency Announcement. These are the announcements. So Consec is a BAA. So if I wanna respond with my idea, with my project, with a configuration security program, then I'll respond to the Consec BAA, not BBA. I recorded a whole video doing it wrong, I apologize, but a lot of acronyms here. It's easy to get confused. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was informative, and I hope that maybe somebody will get some project going, hopefully. Guys, stay smart, stay scientific, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.